When the message came in, he did not really have time for it. He was in the middle, literally, of trying to fight a war. But when you're in the United States military and the president sends you a telegram and tells you to come to the White House, that's what you do. Ulysses Grant was headquartered at the time in March of 1864 in Nashville. And if you know anything about Civil War history, the Union Army had had a string of basically miserable commanding generals. And Mr. Grant had made a name for himself, not because he was flashy or out of the way, but he got things done. President Lincoln had sent a telegram and asked him to come to the White House so that he could be named Commander-in-Chief of the Union Army. And now, in our day and time, you need to go to Nashville, to Washington, D.C., you jump in a vehicle and you drive right up there and, you can be up there before supper. But that wasn't the case in 1864. This trip took several days by train and other means. And when he finally made it to Washington, D.C. late one night, there was supposed to be a group there to pick him up and take him to the White House, but when he got there, nobody's there. So he had a few guys traveling with him. He sent them to the White House and said, let them know that I'm here. I'm going to get a hotel room. So he walks up the block there to the Williford Hotel. Now this hotel itself, it's got a lot of history in Washington, D.C. A lot of deals have been made in the lobby of this hotel. A lot of famous people have stayed there throughout the years. And Mr. Grant, of course, he's been traveling. He's just in what we would call street or plain clothes. Walks into the Williford Hotel, walks up to the front counter and says, I need a room. Well, the attendant there at the front desk, he acted like he was kind of just upset even that somebody would come in at that late hour and ask for a hotel room. It kind of aggravated him. And he says, well, I've got one room left. It's an attic room. It's really small. And if you want it, I guess you can have it. Mr. Grant said, that'd be fine. He signed the book, took the key, took him and his oldest son, and he went upstairs. Now, in a few minutes, the clerk was kind of cleaning up and getting the paperwork that Mr. Grant had signed, and he didn't realize who he had just spoken rudely to. And when he spins that book around and looks at it, it says, U.S. Grant and Son. And I bet his jaw hit the floor because he had just been rude to and basically given the broom closet to the commanding general of the Union Army. And this front desk clerk began to step and fetch and to find Mr. Grant a room. Eventually, the only room left in the hotel was the presidential suite where Lincoln stayed at times, and he went and got Mr. Grant out of the broom closet and put him in the presidential suite. But now, here's why I bring this story up. Grant could have handled this completely differently at that front desk. He could have thrown a fit and said, do you not understand who I am? You don't understand why I'm here? I'm coming to lead this army and to win this Civil War. You better go find me a room. Right? He could have pitched a fit. He didn't do that. He just took the disrespect in stride. I imagine he's so tired he didn't care where he slept. But he could have handled that much differently. You see, sometimes in life we don't understand who someone is, and maybe unintentionally we wind up disrespecting them. Oh, I didn't realize who you were. But other times in life, someone may know who someone is, and they still don't care. Or maybe they have something against that person, and they wind up disrespecting that person on purpose. You see, that's not a new thing. It wasn't new in the Civil War days, and it's not new in the Scriptures. If you got your Bibles this morning, go with me to Matthew chapter 21. This is where we're going to sit today and look at one of the parables of Jesus. Matthew 21, beginning in verse 33. Hear another parable. There was a master of a house who planted a vineyard and put a fence around it and dug a wine press in it and built a tower and leased it to tenants and went into another country. And when the season for fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the tenants to get his fruit. And the tenants took his servants and beat one and killed another and stoned another. Again, he sent other servants, more than the first, and they did the same to them. Finally, he sent his son to them, saying, "They will respect my son." But when the tenants saw the son, they said to themselves, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him and have his inheritance." And they took him and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. When therefore the owner of that vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants? They said to him, "He will put those wretches to a miserable death and let out the vineyard to other tenants who will give him the fruits in their season." Jesus said to them, "Have you never read in the Scriptures? The stone that the builder rejects has become the cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it's marvelous in our eyes. Therefore I tell you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people producing its fruits. And the one who falls on this stone will be broken into pieces, and when it falls on anyone, it will crush him." When the chief priests and the Pharisees heard his parables, they perceived that he was speaking about them. And although they were seeking to arrest him, they feared the crowds because they held him to be a prophet. Now, when you look at this parable, right, it's a parable. It's a story that Jesus is teaching. It is a earthly story with a heavenly meaning, somebody would say. The word parable means to cast alongside, right? You take this earthly story and you cast a spiritual meaning alongside it. Now, you look at the applications for this and you say, well, okay, Jesus taught this story. What does it mean? What does it mean for us? And I'd say there's a lot of different directions that we could go with this lesson this morning, but here's the thing that stood out to me this time when I was studying this. You know, it almost seems foolish for the master to keep sending people into a situation knowing that they're going to get abused and harmed and killed. And in verse 37, when he says, "I'll send my son," the thing that stood out to me is what? He said, they will what? They will respect my son. Of course, you know the story, right? They didn't do that. But this idea of respecting the Son of God, it's important. This parable here is included in 3 of the 4 gospel accounts. When God says something once, he means it. When he says it twice or more, he really, really means it, right? Why is this here? I think today it's here because we need to understand how critical it is to respect the Son of God. And you say, well, yeah, Doug, that's right. We need to respect the Son of God. It would be really easy to stand up here this morning and preach a sermon about how outsiders don't respect the Son of God, how atheists don't respect the Son of God, how all these people, you know, I could stand up here and we could beat the drum and talk about all of them. And I guess that would be right. That would be technically right. There are a lot of people on the outside that disrespect the Son of God. But you know what? This morning I wonder, is it possible, even for Christians, even for people who come and gather together on the Lord's Day to be with the body, is it possible for me to at times disrespect the Son of God? Maybe it's unintentional. Or maybe my heart is starting to harden and sin has entered in my life and I begin to just intentionally disrespect him. Do you think that's a possibility? I know that it can be. And this morning what we want to do is we want to go through this parable again. I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but I want to look at different ways that they disrespected the Son of God in this parable. And I think there's some applications and some points here that will be valuable to us, and I hope that they can help me be better and help you be better as well. So that being said, we're going to kind of back up, and we're going to start at the end of the parable and work our way backwards. You notice here in verse 42, there's this idea about a stone that the builders rejected. You know, 1 Peter would talk about Jesus being the chief cornerstone. And we don't really understand this concept really well in our day and time, because when we want to build a building, what do? Well, we pour concrete. Underneath this concrete underneath this carpet is a concrete slab. We take concrete, and then we take wood framing, and we just build this thing, right? That's how we do it. But we don't build buildings the way they built them in the first century. If you're building a building, any kind of major structure in the first century, you're probably building it out of stone, okay? And when you're building it out of stone, you know, if you need to build a wall today, what do? Well, if I need to build a wall, I'm probably going to call Mitch. But, you know, in the first century, y'all get that later, okay? In the first century, I'm sure you could still hire somebody to build a wall, but they couldn't run down to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy a load of cinder blocks or buy a load of brick, okay? You had to make your own building materials. And when you're building a wall, there's two different kinds of stone that you need to build that brick wall or that stone wall. I'm going to call, just my terminology, right, but a normal stone, and then the cornerstone is a special stone. Now, when you're building something, I got a rock here. This comes from Bryson, North Carolina, probably 8 or 9 years ago. But when you're building something, it's important what is going on each side of this and on top and the bottom. Because this stone affects what? Every other stone above it and to each side of it. If this stone is crooked, then what happens when you lay the next stone on it? It's crooked and more crooked and more crooked, and finally the wall does. So if you're going to build a stone wall in the first century, you've got to take a stone, okay, and it needs the top and the bottom of it need to be flat. But more than just flat, okay, it's one thing to get them flat, but they need to also be parallel. What does that mean? That means when you look at that stone, the top and the bottom of them need to run together. They need to run like parallel lines. That way, whatever the surface level is below it, if it's flat, top and bottom, when I set that on there, the next layer can be flat too. This stone has to do its part so that the rest of the stones can do their part. But it's not just the top and the bottom. It's also the sides. These sides need to be relatively straight and flat. They need to be parallel. Because, right, you're setting this next to another one and another one and another one. But then it's even more complicated than that. Because if I have a stone where this side and this side are parallel, this side and this side are parallel, but then those sides are not square to each other. And when I say square, what I mean is this angle to this angle is 90 degrees. You know, somewhere, if you've ever built anything, right, you got a framing square. You hold that up to make sure the thing you're building is square. Because if this stone isn't square, it, once again, throws everything out of loop. But now a normal wall stone, I need 4 sides that are straight, parallel, and square, but the front and back don't matter. They can be rough, right? It's just going down the line. But now, that cornerstone, it's different. The front and back on it cannot be just rough. Those sides need to be what? Straight, parallel, and square as well. Because that cornerstone sets the intersection of that wall. And if that angle is off, when you get 25 feet or 100 feet out this way, and you start to connect the wall on the other side, your building will not be square. You may make a diamond building. If every one of them are off a little bit, you might make a circle and not mean to, right? The edges of this stone, and more importantly, the preparation of this stone is critical. Well, you know what? This morning, if you're a Christian, you're a stone. Peter talks about us being built up into a spiritual house on top of Jesus. Now, Jesus is the cornerstone. Jesus is that stone that was perfect. Every side, polished, cut, square, to the nth degree. And we're not. Okay? As good as I can be, if I work my whole entire life to reach the pinnacle of Christianity, I'll still have rough sides and edges. I'll still make mistakes. But I don't have to be perfect to what? To be built up in this wall. You see, a lot of times people, they want to be in the wall, but they don't want to do the work to knock the rough edges off. And that's a problem. It doesn't work. You know, I want to come to church. I want to be a part of. I want to partake in all the blessings of, but you know, I really don't want to do the work to shave that down, to change that, to do that. I mean, there's other people, man. Have you not seen them? They come to church and they do all kind of crazy stuff. Like, you know, there's all kind of reasons why I might look at myself and say, yeah, I don't need to change that. I'm what? Good enough. Now, I understand. We'll never be perfect. I get it. I wish I could be. I wish there was some standard, some check sheet I could give you and be like, oh, yeah, I've arrived. Woohoo! Doesn't work that way. But I don't have to be perfect. I have to have a heart that wants God, that wants to be better, that works and progresses. 1 John 1 and 2 says that I can't be perfect, but I can make progress. Right? That when I sin, I can confess those sins, and he is faithful and willing and just to keep on continually cleansing me of those sins. It's very easy to disrespect the Son of God just by saying what? I don't want to build. I just want to come and I just want to be a part of, and I want to come listen to the preacher preach, and I want to come and sing the songs and you know, take the Lord's Supper and go through the motions. But I don't want to make my stone any better. How does that not disrespect the Son of God? When he came here and he did everything possible and imaginable to save us. When he was tortured to death for me. And I can't try to whittle on some rough edges. What's wrong with that picture? What's wrong with it is my heart. That's what's wrong with it. So we refuse to build. All right, number 2. We'll back up a little further. Here, the second kind of reason how we can, or the second way that we can disrespect the Son of God, intentionally or unintentionally, is we want his place. You notice when they killed the son, they did not kill the son because they thought he was another servant. My dad was a mechanic growing up, and he built his mechanics shop right beside our house, which made his commute wonderful. But the problem we had was at 9 o'clock at night, somebody would go, hey, would you mind come look at my car just a minute? I mean, it'd be one thing if you're sitting there one night late at the vineyard and you're watching Netflix, and here comes the son, and be like, who is that? Why are they knocking on the door at this hour of the night? Just go ahead and kill them. They did not kill the son because he was just bothering them. They killed him, why? Because they wanted what was his. They wanted his inheritance. They wanted his position. We want to take what is not rightfully ours, and we want to take it from you. You understand the intention, the purpose there? I mean, you understand God owns everything. The psalm, it talks about God owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills. I like to say ribeyes. That's my favorite part. But, you know, God owns everything. And I think sometimes people reject God because they don't like his rules. If I don't like the rules, I'll get rid of the rule giver, right? But, once again, we're not talking about people on the outside. We're talking about on the inside. So, how can I disrespect the Son of God wanting his place. I know I'm a Christian. I know I don't want to be the Savior. But if everything is his, I can disrespect the Son when I act like mine is actually mine. You understand what I'm trying to say to you? You think about the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan was going down the road. He was traveling for business or going to family Thanksgiving, we don't know what he was doing. But when he saw this man naked, half beaten to death, bleeding, suffering, what did he do? He gave him his bandages. He gave him his oil. He gave him his time. He put him on his animal. He took him to an inn. He gave his money. He gave up his good night's sleep. He opened a line of credit for him that he was going to be responsible for. You think about all the things that he gave him that were rightfully what? His. And he just gave them away. He just used them. Why? Because here's someone in need. What would happen if that man looked at him and said, boy, I hate that for you, but, I've only got 3 bandages and I don't want to give them to you. Is that not looking at Jesus and saying, you know what, you give me all this thing, you give me life and breath and all these blessings, you make it to rain on the just and the unjust, but Jesus, I just don't want to share. Whew. Do you not think that would disrespect the Son? And sometimes it's not that intentional. Sometimes it's not a big, I want to be the rich man and this Lazarus laid at my gate and I don't want to share my trash with him. That's all Lazarus wanted was the man's trash. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's just simply, well, I don't have time for you right now. Sometimes it's some little thing. This opportunity that you're presented and you're given where you have the things needed to fix the problem and may very well open up and break the gate open for this person to be like, why did you do that? Because I love God. I've never seen anybody who would just randomly help somebody. Yeah, well, I love God and God's helped me and God's given me everything that I have. So if I have something that I can help somebody else with, then why would I not use? It's not mine. I'm simply a steward of it. I'm simply a steward of it. But yet, when I act like all the mine is mine, kind of what I'm saying is I want his place. Now, lastly, we ignore the warnings. Matthew 21:34. When the season drew near, it'd have been one thing for the master to be like, somewhere down in the fine print of this lease agreement for this vineyard, to be like, on March the 6th, you need to start delivering fruit to me. It'd been one thing for him to expect you to share the fruit and never send anybody. But he sent messengers to say, hey, here's what's required. Hey, time's coming up. Hey, here's what you need to do. And what did they do to those warnings? They just ignored them. You think about John the Baptist. John the Baptist told them over and over again, listen, I'm coming to make straight the ways of the Lord. I'm one sent as a messenger, a warning. And you know what they did to John the Baptist? They ignored him. You know what this book right here that we have is? It's one preparing, make ways straight of the Lord. It's our warning. It's our guide. And yet so many people walk past these on coffee tables and shelves. And you got the big family Bible that's got names written in the front of it, and nobody else has ever even opened it up once, ever. It's not a decoration. It's a warning. It's a warning for us what's going to happen, what could come. And if we ignore that, where do you think this came from? We studied this morning about the Holy Spirit and talked a little bit about John 14. That Jesus told them, I have to leave because if I leave, the Helper will come, who will bring to your remembrance all things both which I have done and taught. This is a warning. And if you ignore this, if you don't heed it, it's just like disrespecting the Son of God. whether you mean to or not. Your intentions don't factor into this. There's all kind of people that mean to do the right thing and they never get around to it. Which shows you their heart, shows you their priorities. So we look at all these things, right? And as we wrap this up this morning, like I say, there's all kind of reasons why. I get that. But God put this here for a reason. You look at 40 and 41. When the owner of the vineyard comes, he's going to take it away. And you notice in verse 41, he'll let out. Well, it's not a word we use every day, but the idea is that he's going to terminate the lease agreement from those who were disrespecting his son, and he's going to turn around and give it to someone else who will do with it the right thing. You look at 43 and 44. This idea of a stone that falls on you. You're either building on top of the stone of Jesus or you're getting crushed by him. There's only two options. There's all kind of people today that are disrespecting the Son of God. And the thing is, whether we like it or not, whatever the intentions are, however sad it may be, when the end comes, he will take it away from those who are not producing the fruits, and he will give it to those who are. And I don't mean that to scare anybody. I don't say that to scare anybody, to beat anybody down. But God has placed this warning here for us today. You think you struggle with becoming spiritually lax? You ought to try being a preacher. Mechanics drive the worst cars. I understand. But we don't have to let that be. That's why we have each other. That's why we come together. That's why, Jude talks about some people that you lead them out of trouble, and some people you grab them by the collar and you yank them out of the fire. That's why we come together. That's why we need each other. And this morning, I don't know what your need is, but if we can help you in any way, would you come? I will have this invitation song.